guys, and welcome back. I just recently watched the Winchester movie, and the Winchester house, is something that's just always fascinated me. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about the house and like the history behind it and the movie. The movie was really good, at least I thought it was. So let's just go kind of like into the background of the movie, or the house actually. So I have my notes here on my laptop, so if I'm looking down a lot, that's why. So the Winchester Mystery House is in San Jose, California, and it was originally an 8-bedroom house whose construction started in 1884 by the widow Sarah Winchester. Just forgot how to read, sorry. She was the widow of William Ward Winchester, who made rifles for a living, and his rifle was made famous because it was, you could shoot 15 consecutive shots without reloading. So Sarah Winchester was born in 1840, and the construction began in 1884. And unfortunately, Sarah passed away in 1922 on September 5th. The construction all started because a grieving widow was told by a medium that her husband wanted her to go to California and to build this house to welcome the spirits of the people that he had essentially killed with his weapon. So she did. She thoroughly believed that the spirits she was cursed. Oh, okay. I took these notes myself and can't even read them. She thoroughly believed that the spirits that she was cursed with haunted her daily because of, like, dying in the war by cause of the Winchester rifle. And so she would kind of, like, sleep in a room, a different room of the house every night. And mind you, this house had over 160 rooms that were made throughout like 20 plus years of construction. So yeah, there were roughly 160 rooms when Sarah passed, and construction immediately stopped because there were no blueprints and there wasn't an actual architect used. Sarah drew the sketches of whatever she wanted herself, and then she gave them to a constructor and they began the work. She had kind of like the furniture and stuff that she wanted brought in as they built. My bird just fell all the way to the bottom of the cage. Hold on. Okay, I'm back with a friend. So the movie, which came out, I believe, 2019, maybe 18. Don't quote me on that. It begins with Sarah's niece Marion and her son Henry sleeping on a bed when he suddenly wakes up and he's led out of the room by a spirit. Or he's kind of like in a trance. And then a few minutes later, Marion wakes up and sees Henry is like outside the room. And he has this burlap sack over his head, and so she's like following him, calling out to him like, "Henry, what are you doing?" And then she calls him a few more times and he just turns and walks away. "What are you doing, bird? Come here. Come here, brat. Come here. No. Come here. Come here. Okay, you do that." So, sorry about that. So, when Marion finally catches up to Henry, she takes the sack off his head, and his eyes are like glossed over, like foggy, and she like looks at him like, "What?" And so when he finally realizes that the sack's off his head, he like turns and looks up the stairs and points, and he says, "He's coming for us." Now the way that there's like the way that this staircase was shaped was that it went up into the ceiling. It didn't actually go anywhere, and that's the mystery of this house, is every room has something weird in it, like cabinets that open up to walls, or staircases that lead into the ceiling, or that lead out to windows, and if you walk out the window, you'll fall out of the house. And during the time of the construction of the house was 7 stories tall. And by the end, after the giant earthquake they had in San Francisco, it was only 4 stories tall, so it reduced 3 stories, and she just never built it back up. What? Stop. Okay, so now there's a man who works for the Winchester Rifle Company, and he's thoroughly convinced that Sarah has like lost her mind. Sarah Winchester. the owner of the house and owner of 50% of the business. So he hires Dr. Eric Price, who his wife had just died, Ruby. So he's still mourning her. So he's assigned to assess Sarah. There's like a hair on my necklace, I'm sorry. And he'll kind of determine if she's like crazy or not. Oh, right here. And so if he gives her a bad assessment, she loses 50% of the ownership of the company, which was hers, left to her by her husband. And she had also inherited more than $20.5 million, the equivalent of $543 million in 2019. So Sarah invites Dr. Price to come stay with her and assess her. When he arrives, he's kind of appalled by the house and its design. The first night he's in his room is like, he's just like looking around, like touching everything. Like, why is there so much stuff in this room if it's only for me? And he's kind of like talking to himself in a stand-up mirror, kind of like this one actually, except for it was red. And, well, it didn't have stickers on it either, but like it's one of these mirrors. Oh, hello, laptop. And when he would look away from the mirror, he had like this, it would turn sideways. And when he would look back, he would turn it back around. And the third time he turned it back, there was a ghost behind it. And he was taking... What's this? So he is taking this, like, poison, I guess, a drug. It's called, laudanum. And it's like a liquid. And so he thinks that maybe the ghost is just something that the drug is causing because it makes him hallucinate. And he just kind of starts to admit that he's a phony and that he really doesn't know what he's doing. And that he just uses the drugs to kind of cope with his wife passing away. So he gets up and like tries to run out of the room. And he runs into one of the male servants who lives with Sarah. And the servant asks him like, hey, are you okay? Like, you look like you're like flustered. He's like, no, I'm fine, sorry. And he goes back into his room. So, okay, my bird is like flipping out. Yeah, you're flipping out, I know you are. So on Dr. Price's way back inside, he happens to glance up and he sees Henry walking outside with the sack over his head again towards a ledge of one of the rooms that's still being built. So Henry's like in the house walking out and Dr. Price is outside walking in the courtyard. And he sees him with the sack over his head and he calls to him like, Henry, like, what, like, don't walk off the edge of the building, pay attention to where you're going. And so Dr. Price runs and catches Henry, and when he pulls the bag off his head, yeah, Henry snaps out of his daze again and he's taken back inside. And Henry and Marion are confined to quarters as well as Dr. Price for sneaking out of his room. And one of the things that Dr. Price sees while he had snuck out of his room was Sarah at a desk with her eyes closed and she was drawing. She was like drawing like weird and her eyes were closed, but she was drawing this picture of a cabinet, like a giant... You guys probably can't see my bookshelf behind me, but it was like that. Ow, you just bit my neck. Yeah, so she was drawing that, and when she asked Dr. Price, like, be honest, I want your honesty. You can do whatever you want in my house as long as you follow my rules, but I want your honesty. That's the only thing I ask of you. Honesty, no drugs, and no drinking before dinner were her, like, really 3 rules. And so... he's like, yeah, I did sneak out of my room. And she's like, okay, so you saw what I was doing. And he's like, yeah, but I didn't think anything of it. Like, you're just sketching out. Obviously, you were doing construction. I thought you were just sketching something out. And she's like, you know, the spirits lead me to draw. They tell me, and I sketch it as they tell me. And he was like, okay, weirdo. So, yeah, I think this, really, at this point, I realized that this movie was kind of, like, built on jump scares. Because at this point in the movie... which was not even halfway in, there was already like 3 jump scares. And I was like, okay, that stuff's not scary to me. And then a few more scenes later, Sarah reveals the girth of why she began building the house. And she tells Dr. Price that when she builds a room and completes it, then the spirit that is trapped in the house can find peace because the spirits want her to build a replica of the room that they died in. So that they can find peace and move on. So, and then when the spirit finds peace and moves on, she just tears everything out of the room Yes, you are a pretty bird. And then she just rebuilds for the next spirit. Hold on. I'm sorry. Alright, I got the bird to hush, so let's just get back into the notes so I can finish. I've got 4 pages of notes, but it shouldn't take that long. I'm already on page... What page am I on? I'm on page 2, so... So after Sarah reveals why she builds the rooms and how, like, the process of building them, she also tells Dr. Price that if a spirit comes into the house and they're irritable, that she'll lock them in a room with a bar over the door and with specifically 13 nails. And so Dr. Price, since he's been there, has been trying to get into this greenhouse outside the house, like the main house. And it's barred off. And he learns why. That's why there's a spirit in there that isn't friendly, and that's why he's not allowed in there. I'm so sorry, he won't be quiet. Hold on, I'm gonna try one more time to get him to be quiet, okay? Okay, I think I finally got it. So, after the greenhouse, my bird made my notes go all the way back up to the top. We were right here, okay. So the next scene, we're met with Sarah and Henry on a staircase. Now Sarah, in her later years, got really bad arthritis, so she took out all the big, like, grand stairs and put in these little tiny ones that were like 2 to 4 inches tall. Would you please stop? And so, and the stairs cases she made were like zigzag. They weren't like up, turn, and then up again. They were like, and so and they kind of went up, like, diagonal, but they were still going, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's hard to explain. Maybe I'll put some pictures in at the end. And so, she's on this staircase, coming around, and Henry follows her, and no one knows that Henry's possessed yet, because every time they pull the sack off, he's already snapped out of his little trance thing. And so he has one of the father's guns, or the grandfather's guns, sorry, and he is trying to basically shoot Sarah, and we'll find out why later in the movie. And so she dodges all the bullets, and then he, like, stops. Sorry, there's more bird dander. Birds have so much dander. If you're gonna get a bird and you're allergic to them, just a little side note, if you're, like, allergic to dander or sensitive to it, do not get a bird, because they shake their feathers and peck at their skin all the time, and there's stuff always floating in the air. So be careful of that, okay? Okay, now back to the notes. And so when Henry, like, Sarah had fallen over to dodge the bullets, and he was looking over her at one of the rails of the staircase, and he put the gun right through her forehead, and luckily it jams. And so he turns it over and starts using the butt of it to hit her. But by that time, Marion and Dr. Price had already come out and separated Henry from the gun. And when Sarah finally sees that his eyes are frosted over, Henry's eyes, she asks him, or the spirit, "Who are you?" And the only thing the spirit says is, "Die," and then Henry snaps out of it again, and he's taken back to his bedroom, and he, like, immediately falls asleep. So at this point, Dr. Price is like, what is going on? So he insists that Henry goes to a hospital, because obviously he's got some kind of condition, like a fainting spell or something. And so Sarah, who is in tune with all this, like, paranormal stuff, insists that they seal the room they're in with 13 nails until the ghost, or the spirit, decides to agree and leave Henry alone, because it's not fair that he's suffering, and this one specific spirit only goes after innocent people that, like, are pure of heart. So obviously the smallest child in the house, or the only child in the house. But Marion, who is Henry's mother, agrees with Dr. Price that he needs to go to a hospital. And so the Dr. Price rushes off to make arrangements for a carriage. And it's during this scene before he runs off that he says, "Henry has a condition and needs to be seen." And to which Sarah replies, "A condition can be cured, but a curse cannot." And this is about the point where Dr. Price starts to believe that Sarah is delusional and she does not deserve to still be in charge of her company. And so Dr. Price leaves the room, and he almost runs into the same servant again, and who finally says, like, hey, Dr. Price, honestly, if I can speak honestly with you, I've been seeing stuff too. And so they turn to head up the staircase, and when the servant says, you know, locking up Sarah and Marion and Henry is only going to delay the inevitable, and Dr. Price turns back and asks him, like, what do you mean? And the servant says, they are all Winchesters, they will all die. And then the guy disappears, and his face is all like bloody and disfigured. And so Dr. Price kind of runs off through the house to find Sarah and tell her about this employee. When she holds up a newspaper, because she had already sensed him, that he was in the house, the spirit. And so she holds up this article, and it's the picture of this servant. No, be quiet. Shh, quiet. Yes, Pretty Bird, can be quiet, please. I love you. So, come on, you gotta hear my story. You have to be quiet so you can hear my story. Pretty Bird, yeah. Okay, so is that right? We do this every day, at least once a day. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm sorry. Okay, I think we're good. Probably not, but I'm gonna try to get through it anyways. I might just have to at some point start talking over him because he can get loud. Excuse me. Why are you only chirp when I turn the camera back on? Come here. Come here. Come here. Good job. Here, over here. Okay. So, where were we? Oh, when he runs into the employee and the employee disappears. And Sarah holds up this document and says, like, you sensed him, or you can see him, because I can only sense him. And so, the article... Hush! Pretty Bird, why have grass in your beak? When did you go outside? Hold on, I'm gonna take him and see if my dad wants to hold him, because... Alright, I got it. They're gone. They're being babysat now. So we can finally... Oh, look at the lighting. That's beautiful. Okay, much better. Okay, so, again, the document. Sarah holds up. It's a newspaper article, and she says, you can see him, and I can only sense him, so we have to work together to get him out, because it's not fair that he's attacking Henry. And so the doctor's, like, still kind of, like, leery about her actually being haunted, and he's like, you're crazy. But he sees the document, and the young man's name is Ben, and he had lost 2 brothers in the war, and they were killed by the Winchester rifles. So Ben wanted revenge, right? So he goes, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm nervous. Like, I'm in my room, I'm alone. I don't know why I'm nervous to talk to my cell phone. So Ben goes into the Winchester rifle factory with a Winchester rifle, no doubt. Like, is that ironic or not? And he kills 15 people, and then he locks himself in the display room where they have the rifles, like the different models they've made and tested. And he waits for the police to break down the door, and while he's waiting, he's singing this song that we later hear Henry singing when he gets possessed again. And so, Ben dies, the police shoot him when they break in. And there's this specific thing, like this bell over the house, and it only chimes at midnight. And that's what summons the spirits. And so when Sarah and Dr. Price go into the replica room that she had made of the display room for the rifles, and she's gonna apologize. She's like, Ben, I'm sorry for the grief. I understand that you lost 2 brothers, and I can help you find peace if you just confront us. You talk to me directly. Don't go through Henry. That's not fair that you're tormenting him. And instead of Ben going to Sarah, he goes to Henry anyways, and he possesses him. And the house begins to shake profusely, and Henry, again, his eyes are glossed over. Now, I'm not sure if the house was shaking because of Ben, because I know that during this time, there was also a massive, massive earthquake, like the most destructive earthquake in history. Or so I've heard. Could be wrong. And I think an earthquake would kind of lead to people being dragged around the floor and slammed into the walls, which is like typical paranormal movie action or behavior. And so, after the house stops shaking, all the debris has fallen, and Dr. Price and Sarah are kind of trapped separately in different parts of the house. So when Dr. Price finally stops being dragged around and glances up, he sees he's in this hallway, and there's like maybe 8 doors, 4 on each side, and they each have a bar over the door with 13 nails, and just one by one the nails start dropping out and the doors start to open. And he's like, oh crap. So, and then it switches scenes, and this scene finally is Marion finding Henry after the earthquake or Ben shaking the house. And Dr. Price is led out of the room he was trapped in to the garden room of the greenhouse from the beginning. He takes the bar off the door, and he's greeted by the voice of his late wife, Ruby. She gives him a pep talk, and then she starts to get mad at him and tells him, like, you should have gotten me help when I needed it. You knew I had this delusional disorder, and that's all you called it. You're a therapist, and you wouldn't even help me. And so she, all of a sudden, has a rifle, and she tries to shoot herself. And he goes to pull the gun away, and she accidentally shoots him. And so, and then after shooting him, she shoots herself anyway, but she's already dead. So, like, I guess it was just symbolic of her letting go of her grief over him. So, Dr. Price, we learned, like, way back in the movie, he had already been shot and actually died for 3 minutes. And the bullet, he kept it, and he had it engraved with "Together Forever" for him and his wife. So he didn't actually die, he just got shot, and then he woke up surrounded by 10 spirits. And his wife leads him back to Sarah, and she tells him, like, seal the door, well, it wasn't really a door, it was like where he broke the floor to get in. And Ben slammed down the bookshelf, and she was like, here, 13 nails, put them around the bookshelf to keep it on the floor. And this is where Dr. Price realizes, like, hey, okay, this woman's not crazy. If I can see them, and so can she. Obviously, she's telling the truth. So, because he had kept the bullet and had it refurbished, that was his connection to the afterlife. And that's why he was the only one that could see all of these spirits. Sarah could only sense them. Like, Dr. Price could physically see them, like actual people. And so, it switches back to Marion, and she finally finds Henry in front of a furnace singing the same song that Ben was singing while he was waiting for the police to break down the door. And his eyes are glossed over again. He's just kind of standing in front of the furnace, like, looking into it. And Dr. Price, I don't know why it switched scenes so many times during this part of the movie, I guess, like, to build tension. But Dr. Price finally agrees to help Sarah cleanse the house, He finally agrees to help cleanse the house and get rid of Ben. And when Ben finally comes into where they are, he possesses Sarah. And that's how she realizes that he's afraid of something in the room. And at first I thought it was the Winchester rifle because that's what had killed his brothers. But they realized that it was the bullet that Dr. Price had died with. So he loads it into a gun and he shoots Ben. I don't know why he'd be scared of that though. Like, that wasn't the bullet that killed him. Maybe it's because it's connected to both lives and Ben just wants to move on. Yeah, so in the end, Dr. Price kills Ben. Henry is safe, and Sarah gets to keep her business because Dr. Price realizes she's not crazy. I'm not crazy, hopefully. And she is of sound mind and body. She deserves to keep this business. And he only originally agreed to go assess her because they promised him money. Yeah, so. And then the end shot is, I guess, like one of the other irritable spirits that was still in the house pushing the nails back out of the door. Because after they had finally gotten rid of Ben, Sarah told the construction workers, like, seal the doors. Those spirits are still in there. They're still mad. Seal the doors. I don't want them out. I don't want this to happen to Henry again. So that happened. The movie's good. I recommend it. I watched it on an online site, which has, like, a lot of inappropriate ads around them. So I just kind of, like, block those out and only watch the movie. Luckily, I can make it full screen. I might link it in the description. I really don't like to recommend this website because of the inappropriate ads, but I just don't look at those. I have no desire to. So I have some questions for the end of the movie, just that I've had since I first learned about the Winchester house. or the Winchester Mystery Mansion, whatever you want to call it. It goes by both of those. So my questions are, why did Sarah continue to build? Didn't she know by welcoming more spirits into her house, that's more chances she could take risking Henry? Was she not concerned another spirit would come in? And what happens if one did? Would she call Dr. Price back and be like, hey, yo, you're the only one that can see these. Can you come help me again? So, yeah, I might include some pictures. I really think this house is fascinating. Oh, I made an Instagram story on it. That's what even inspired me to make this video. My Instagram is Little Squidward. If you want to check it out, it's the first highlight on my profile. Yeah, so if you want to check it out, more power to you. Please be respectful on my page, even if you don't agree with some of the things that I post, because some of my content is politically driven. Not very much of it. Some of it. You're going to have to scroll down quite a ways to find it. So, that's the end of this. I really like this movie. I highly recommend it. I looked up the cast really quick. It's got, on my little piece of paper, Helen Mirren is Sarah, Jason Clarke is Dr. Price, Sarah Snook is Marion, I cannot say this child's name, Finn Cicluna O'Prey is Henry. Yeah, so, good. I definitely recommend this. You guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Is that right? Are you sure? He's such a weirdo. Is that what hers did to you? You're so silly. Here. Okay, get off. I'm sorry, guys. Hey, I'll catch you in the next one. You guys have a great day.